Welcome to What Was He Thinking? My name is A.B. Bracewell. Today I'm going to be your personal tour guide through a man's psyche. Take this journey as we explore why a man thinks the way he thinks, why a man acts the way he acts, and why a man feels the way he feels. No question is off limits, and no topic is too hard. By the end of the show, you'll have a better understanding and a better insight of who we are as men.
If you've been watching the series, you know that we're doing a series on the sexual education of Black men in America. You probably saw part one of the show. Now it's time for part two, where we bring the ladies on, and the ladies put us in a hot seat. They watched our conversation, they watched the show, and now they have some questions and they have some thoughts and opinions on what they saw. So please help me welcome my guests. I have Jamil Rush back. I have Aubrey Martin back. But now I have the ladies a part of the panel. And I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves as they join the show.
So I'll introduce myself. My name is Elisha. I am, first and foremost, I'm a mother. I'm an educator. I'm a counselor in training. So I'm currently attending Kane University, um, finishing up my degree so that I can become a school counselor. I am also a Christian, so I appreciated those words from Brother Martin about giving his life to the Lord. Um, and I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you for including me in the conversation.
Hi, guys. My name is Reed Green. I am a relationship expert. Some of my background, I am a single mother of two, one being 22 and one being 9. But outside of that, my background goes as far as being a transformational coach where I go around and I speak to women to encourage them about learning who they are and empowering them to know their self-worth. I always tell them to add tax after you know the self-worth. But outside of that, my background before becoming a full-time entrepreneur in 2014, I was a special education teacher, as well as I was the executive director for the Welfare to Work in the city of Philadelphia before relocating me and my family.
Hello, hi everybody. My name is Coach Tamaka, and I am a life coach and a spiritual coach, and I'm also a mother. I am a new baby entrepreneur. I just started officially in 2019, and I'm steadily building. So thank you so much, Avi, for having me on. And I am also a Christian and a believer in Jesus Christ. So this is really healing for me. And I am very thankful to be a part of this.
My name is Aubrey Martin. I'm a deacon. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a high school teacher. I'm a mentor. And I'm back again.
Hey, good to be back again. Jamil Rush. I am husband to Natasha Rush. I'm a Christian. My career is in human resources and career development for the last 15 plus years, and I'm happy to be here with all of you.
Great. So as I told you, ladies, thanks for being a part of the show. And as I told you, I have one question for you, and then the show is in your hands. You heard the conversation from the last episode that the guys were having. My question is, how do you think the unhealthy sexual habits of Black men have impacted women?
I can start if that's okay with the panel. One thing I have two answers for that. One is me being a Black woman, a mother of a daughter, a mentor, and then a coach. I've seen so many different aspects of this affecting our community and our women. We don't even probably fully understand the depths of impact that some of the conversations that you gentlemen were having about things you did in your late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, how some woman may still be carrying that in the womb of her soul. and how she's still wounded because maybe you were one of the 20, one of the 8, that hurt her in such a capacity. And God has done a work on you 3 gentlemen that you found repentance and your heart has been renewed. However, there are still hundreds of thousands of men that hasn't been renewed in their mind. And they still feel like, I heard someone make a comment earlier. I wasn't exactly sure who made it. And they said, well, we're consenting adults. And as long as I let you know what's going on, we're not in a relationship. It's not official, but we're still going to be physically active as much as we want to. But I'm not claiming you. And when that hurts you at the end of this, when I'm ready to walk away, I know AB said that a little bit of that was your practice in life for a little bit of time, then that woman is still carrying that devastation and that hurt with her. There's the new term ghosting, but we didn't have that terminology back in the day. He would just dip off or disappear or something to that extent. And you were left carrying the bag, not even knowing why someone stopped talking to you or calling you or dating you after weeks and sometimes months of doing such. And so those things are very emotionally devastating. They're devastating to a lot of women that have to heal from that. And then we come to Christ, not all of us, but thank God for the ones of us that do. And then we come to Christ and we're broken in our soul. And it's not just because of those relationships, but a lot of women that I talk to, a lot of women that I mentor, they are still carrying a relationship from 10, 12, 14 years ago. And you're like, how could that possibly still be affecting them? Then you get into, soul ties and it gets really deep. But that's my take on that question.
Okay. Alicia, Reed, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so thinking about the question, how did the sexual miseducation of Black men, how does that affect women, in particular Black women? For me personally, I think about the Black family as a whole. It has not only affected us as Black women, but it's trickling down to the Black family, because what's happened is we're devalued now. So as a Black woman, we don't feel like in the eyes of our men, we are worth it or worth something. So you have a lot of body image issues. You have a lot of low self-esteem. You have believing that what's in between your legs is what's most important, no matter how smart you are, no matter how pretty you are, no matter how successful you are. As a Black woman, you feel like your value to the Black man is just that. You feel used. And then when there's a feeling of being used, there's always going to be a mistrust. So it's definitely an issue. I appreciate this conversation. I felt those apologies. I said, "Oh, somebody's cutting an onion," but it's real. It affects us so deeply, and it goes into the household. You already know the statistics, the marriage statistics. You already know the amount of single parent households we have with Black women and how likely they are to marry. And it trickles into every area of life. But mainly I want to say, growing up, I remember as a teenager, I think it was Aubrey who mentioned peer pressure. I want to even take it a step further and say, beyond the peer pressure, growing up, because I'm from Jersey City as well. Growing up, I can remember it wasn't only peer pressure from like guys talking about it, it was in our media. So, Black girls grow up and don't think they're worth anything if they don't look like a 30-year-old video vixen with a full body. You got 13-year-old girls thinking that they're not worth it. And then you have the boys watching these videos and thinking, Black women that's what they're for. They're objects.
I would like to first start by saying that this particular topic made me go back to being in college. I was an African American Studies major in undergrad, and it made me look at exactly where it started from. Being a relationship expert today, I kind of I arrived to it, because I started off with just talking to women, and I felt like because we needed to be empowered enough so you can understand the value of who you are. But if we go back even to enslavement taught us that Black men were good for two things: for their hands and for their penis. So, and it trickled down, and it just continued to trickle all the way to us as women, because now, even when we took off of those two titles, it still stuck with us. So men are great for being factory workers or making babies. They were baby makers for Black men, but Black women still didn't have a space. Even though she was going through so many different things, her space didn't evolve until later, because now the Black boy, he walks around and he's valued by giving up his virginity and getting as many, sowing his wild oats, doing what it is that she has to do. But us as Black women, we still living in this fairy tale that was taught by other cultures, that, you know what, if you save yourself, you wait for marriage, you save yourself. If he love you, he'll wait. If you do it too early, then he's going to disrespect you. And so now the guy is putting the pressure of sow your wild oats, but the young lady is being told to wait. So we begin to give ourselves. But for me, being spiritual, it took to another realm, because it's like, okay, so now I've given myself to this guy. And technically that was the consummation of marriage. So we sold ties spiritually. So now I'm connected. I'm taking you each time. So it's taking a part away from me. And the question brought up so many different things. It's just like, even in myself, it made me go back, because when I speak to young women and young men today, I try to bring the gap of understanding the value of your body, because women are taught that the value was by keeping yourself, but men weren't. So how do we correct the wrong at this point of where we're at? So I walk away today with, how do I go back and correct all of that? So this particular topic has given great discussion, because a lot of times we're lost even as adults. I always say that my publicist had told me something one day. She said that a lot of people may only live to see 20, but I mean, they lived to see 100, but they died at 15. When did your spirit leave you? Like, so many different parts of you are being taken from you. And it starts with the consummation. And I talk about it a lot in my book, about just the value of understanding when it is the time. Because when do we really know the appropriate time? Because we're taught Christian wise, you wait for marriage, but then the world tells us, you know what? Oh, you love them, so just go ahead. Because I know for me, when I lost my virginity, I thought I was going to marry this guy. Like, he was my husband. In my head, I had planned the wedding. We were already getting married. And I think a lot of Black women struggle. And then I'm finishing. A lot of Black women, we struggle with understanding. And that's how we're looked at as bitter and angry, because the reality is we're being taught one thing, but then we're being forced into another realm, which now we walk around with the ego of, you know what, I don't need a man. Yeah, but you do. Like, you may not be needy, but you're in need of that companionship, that head for the body.
No, thank you. Thank all of you ladies for your opinions and your thoughts on and your answers on those questions. But like I said, now the mic is in your hands. You listen to the discussion, and I'm sure that it triggered some questions inside of you. So what questions that you might have about, you know, the sexual education of Black men and how it impacts us, how it impacts women, relationships, our community. It's your show now. You could take over. But remember, it's only a 30-minute show, so we want to make sure everybody has a chance to ask their questions.
I guess I'll ask a question. I know Aubrey had said in the last episode that being age appropriate is probably the best way to go. And my question is to the panel, what is age appropriate? Because I know by going and I've spoken to almost every urban school in Philadelphia. And when that question comes up, and when I say urban, let's say middle school and high school, it's mind blowing, because the age is dropping drastically. You know, sexuality is just an open thing. We're no longer just talking about being in the physical act, because they don't consider certain things even sex anymore, where it was taboo to even do certain things, you know, to do certain acts with the guy. Even once I gave up my virginity, it was just like, you don't speak of that. Like, we don't do that. It's not ladylike. But now it's like, oh, well, if we do that, then that's not really having sex. So what is the appropriate age to even start talking to young people. Because I know my 9-year-old came to me recently and she asked me what was homosexuality. So the age is dropping. So what do you think is the appropriate age to have the conversation? And are we having it both with our boys and our girls?
Well, I have 3 daughters and 1 son. My daughters are twins, and then I have so they're turning 15. My youngest is 5, and then my son is 16. So with my son, I began having a conversation with him around 12, 13-ish, just seeing what he knew, right? I would pick his brain to see what he knows. And then from whatever response he gave me, that's kind of the discussion we would have. Same thing with my daughters. I would pick their brain a little bit, see what they know, see what they've been exposed to, see what they heard. And I frequently have conversations with them. Every year they get older, I give them a little bit more. Now they're my twins and my son are in high school, right? So now I'm starting to expose them to a little bit more about, what to look for in a young man, or, not to get too attached to the first guy that says he likes you, or, just telling him I'm giving him the game. Basically, I'm telling him, I haven't full blown told him my whole life story and everything I did, but in a nutshell, I told him once upon a time, Daddy was wild, right? And Daddy did certain things. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I don't want somebody to do the same thing to you. Now, in terms of specifically age appropriate, I know exactly what you're talking about, because it doesn't seem to be an age limit. And that's because they have access to the internet and even regular television, radio. There's no filter on anything anymore. So I guess in my mind, age appropriate will be, okay, maybe that 13, 14, you might have got your first kiss, right? Maybe that 14, 15, you may like somebody, right? And you start to develop a relationship. I tell my girls, don't claim nobody, right? Don't put no titles on nothing. Have friends, right? It's okay to be friends, and it's okay y'all like each other. And I tell my son the same thing, because you need to get to know each other first before you can call yourself having a relationship. That person needs to respect you and like you and know what you're about in order to have a relationship. Now, like I said, son is 16 now, so I'm expecting that I'm going to hit a girlfriend thing, and that's going to come along around that age, and even with my daughters is going to come along around that age, and that's fine. And I just sexually, I'm hoping I don't have to hear about any of that stuff going down until a few years down the line, if it is, right? So when I say age appropriate, I mean in your teens, kiss, hand, hold, hug, go to a dance, go to a party, but you're not getting into nothing hot or heavy.
Yeah, and look, I don't have kids, so I try not to speak about stuff I don't know about, but I just think about my own experience. And in class, when I was in 7th and 8th grade, we were talking about sex, right? Like that, like at that age. And I just think, and I do work with a lot of sort of young people, and I do think it's important that we as adults talk to them about it before they start to have the conversations outside of us. So just know that way back when in the 90s, when I was in 7th and 8th grade, we were already talking about sex. So if you're saying the age is pushed down now, you might think like, oh, I got till 13. You don't, right? Like those conversations are happening way before then. And you need to evasively, proactively talk to your children about sex and healthy dealings with it. And hey, you're about to start hearing about this at school. I remember them like, they rolled out the cart in school. They would roll out the cart with the TV on it, and they like popped in the thing. And my first time learning about sex was like them I think I was in 5th grade. They like put this video about sex on the screen. I was like, oh, okay. And they like full on showing penis, vagina, all those things through it. So I wish I would have had that conversation with someone I trusted as an adult before I started to have them with my peers who were extremely immature at the time.
When we talk about age appropriate, like I have a son, I don't have any daughters, but age appropriate for me was once my son was able to start to understand stuff. And the conversation about sexuality didn't start with sexual intercourse. It started when he was 3, 4 years old, just teaching him the proper body parts. This is a penis. Girls have vaginas. To teaching them about safe touches and good touches. If someone touches you here, let me know. If someone touches you there, let me know. This is a bad touch. So all those conversations when he was real little are sexual conversations, and they're age appropriate. And as he gets older, I start to add different topics to the conversation. I start to gauge your attraction to women, or your attraction to whatever. Then as he continues to get older, we start to talk about like sexual intercourse and the responsibility and the consequences of intercourse and protection. So I think it starts very young. And I agree with Jamil, like we as parents have to be the first one to introduce the conversation, because we know that they're going to get information from outside of the household. So they need something to combat that information. Now, my dad told me this about sex. My friends are telling me this about sex. And my hope is that I have a strong enough relationship with my son that he takes my word over theirs, even though I know he's still going to be curious. He's still going to have peer pressure, but at least he has something fighting against the wrong information with the right information that I believe I'm giving him. So
I have a question for the panel. As a mother, so I have a 13-year-old son and an 11-year-old son. As a mother, I want to know, what can I do for my sons or give my sons that will maybe prevent this type of behavior, this type of miseducation? If you guys could think back to when you guys first discovered, sex, or discovered, women, and started looking at them as objects. If you can think back to those times, can you tell me what you needed at that time that would have made a difference?
I don't, and it's a difficult question for me, because I don't know that I ever felt comfortable talking to my mom about sex, right? Like I could talk to my dad, I could talk to my older brother about it, but I don't know that I ever felt, I was like, I can't talk to my mom about this. But I think one of the things that likely would have helped me when I was younger is if her and I had a sit down conversation and say like, hey, the lines of communication are open, and know that I'm going to listen to you first. I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to make you feel guilty about it. My job here is to listen to you first, and I'm going to help you work through these things that are happening. I think parents feel a need to protect, and especially back when we all were younger versus today, like this idea that sex was bad. And for those of us as Christian and grew up in church, it was even magnified. Like, no, sex is real bad. And if you're doing that, you're sinning. And if you don't repent, you're going to hell. Like, that's a heavy message for a 15-year-old to be trying to wrestle with. So how do we remove shame-based conversation and guilt-based conversation and create open dialogue with our kids? I think that's something that would have been helpful for me, to know that I could talk to you just openly. And honestly, my mom might have been able to do that. Because she never overtly said it, I just assumed I couldn't, because I assumed that you couldn't talk about sex freely.
Yeah. I appreciate the fact that you are even thinking about having this conversation with your son, because it's definitely not a conversation that I had with my mom growing up. It's not a conversation that I had with either one of my parents. I learned a lot of the stuff I learned, out on the street, or maybe from my older brother. But my parents didn't sit down and have these discussions with me. But what I think probably would have been helpful, if my mom would have spoke to me from the perspective of what a woman experiences, what she feels, what she thinks, what my behavior, what impact it will have on her. Because I think I probably could receive it a lot better coming from my mom, because she was a woman. I got a lot of my information from friends about what a girl might think, or what she feels, or what this might say. But if I would have got that information from her, that probably would have opened. I would have got real information something that's based in fact, instead of just information from friends that really didn't know what they were talking about in the first place. So I think that might be a great place to start, just, opening his eyes to the woman's perspective of his behavior. We all know exactly what we want, but we give no consideration in what the woman wants or how our behavior is going to impact her. So that'd probably be a good conversation for me to hear when I was younger. Like I said, I appreciate you ladies joining the show. I appreciate you gentlemen joining the show. Now, I know some of you are doing some big things, writing books and coaching and all types of stuff. So please tell people where they can follow you, where they can get your books, or where they can find you, just in case, you said something on here that resonated with them. Read.
You can find me on both Instagram and Facebook and YouTube at Reet Green, REET Green, like the color. Or you can go online to book a session for a coaching session or to purchase my book, Dating on Purpose. I teach people how to date on purpose with the intent. And that is at datingonpurposeguide.com.
Great, thank you. I got to get a copy of that book, Reed. And what about you, Coach T? I know we can find you somewhere.
Yeah, so I am Complete Woman, and I am Complete Woman on Facebook and on Instagram. And you can also book a session with me on my website, BeYouComplete.com. And I have a lot of one-on-one sessions, as well as fireside chat and true conversations with a group of women. I do those about I was doing them every month before COVID, but now I'm doing them about once a quarter. And you can check out all of that information on my my pages, either Instagram or Facebook. They'll also be listed on my website.
Okay. Thank you. And Leisha?
So right now, all of my endeavors have been put on hold because I am trying to survive grad school. But if you guys want to connect with me, I don't mind friend me on Facebook at Leisha Michelle. It's spelled Lisha, my first name, and then my middle name, Michelle. And I'm just search me up on Facebook. I have a really cute picture.
Now, and the two married men, where can they find you? I'm just you don't mute.
Real simple for me, man. Twitter, Jamil Rush. LinkedIn, Jamil Rush. That's it.
Okay.
Y'all don't need to find me now. I'm gonna plug my wife. My wife has a business going on. It's called B Fits It All In. The letter B Fits, FITSINALLIN, B Fits It All In. It is a wellness company. She is a fitness coach and a budget coach. So if you need help with, getting yourself started, getting back in the gym, working out, she's not a personal trainer. She's a fitness coach. So if you need somebody to work out with, right, it's a difference. Sometimes it's hard to get in that gym by yourself. So you need somebody to work out with, or, you're trying to get your budget together, your personal budget together, as well as she will help you do some grocery shopping to help change some eating habits. So you can see her on Instagram at B Fits It All In.
Okay, Brandy, she's doing her thing out there. So once again, thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for watching. This is What Was He Thinking? The sexual education of Black men in America. Have a great night.